Hello, it is Creature. Drugs.
Drugs?
What about them? I have them, you want them. Now, instead of edging the DEA agents that will inevitably be watching many of these Schedule 1 videos, firstly, what's good? I see you. Secondly, this is all a joke. I would say in Minecraft, but apparently y'all already figured that one out, so fuck it, in League of Legends, I guess. Drugs are a massive industry, with things on the legal side making up a $55 billion industry, and on the more illegal side of things making up around another $150 billion a year. And with recent government-mandated vacancies in the aforementioned illicit industries, has given us an opportunity to fill the gaps and bring jobs back to the United States.
Schedule 1
is, on its face, a Tycoon simulator game, and it is in very early access. However, this hasn't stopped me from dumping hours into this game like an autistic kid with a Ritalin prescription and a love for World War II. The gameplay is quite simple. You make drugs, you sell the drugs at a hefty markup, and then you reinvest the profits back into the company, which in and of itself is illegal. But I do believe that that is the least of our legal concerns, considering that we are making a domestic drug empire with that good old homegrown American meth. Breaking Bad memes aside, similar to my previous review, Schedule 1 is the type of game where you'll need to understand the very basics of production chains, throughput, and distribution. However, we now have a new economic buzzword to pay attention to: demand. In short, the more sought after a commodity is, the more valuable it is. For instance, I can make a strain of methamphetamine that is extremely addictive, and due to the fact that the supply is 120% artificially inflated or deflated, depending on how my bank account is looking, we control the demand. Another point to pay attention to is while we may be in the pharmaceutical industry, we are not a part of Big Pharma directly. So unlike Big Pharma, we're gonna have to pay attention to the law. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to abide by it, but we do need to pay attention to it. Curfews, police patrols, and shakedowns are going to be something you're going to need to avoid, because if you are out past curfew, the police will just automatically arrest you with no probable cause. If they catch you selling drugs to somebody, then they're going to try to arrest you, this time with probable cause. And I'm gonna be completely honest, the cops in this game aren't that big of an issue. You can usually punch them to death before they can accurately shoot you. And you're gonna need to know how to do the cop runaround, because most of your time is going to be spent either in the lab cooking up some of the most devious shit ever to hit the streets, and the other half is going to be spent doing manual distribution. We do have some hireable employees who can alleviate the stress of distribution, but more on that later. Now, normally, I don't really talk about the sound in a game unless the sound is actually good, and Schedule 1 is one of those games where the soundtrack is not only good, but it's kind of a vibe. A surprise to be certain, but a welcome one nonetheless. As of writing this, there are only 3 products available for production: weed, methamphetamine, and coke. There are plans to add more in the future, as the dev has been kind enough to give us a nice little roadmap for the game going forward. Let us hope that we do not see another promising game fly too close to the sun and plummet back to the ground, splattering on the pavement with spectacular fashion like so many have before it. Anyway, beyond the current 3, there are plans to add MDMA, heroin, and shrooms to the game, along with some nice little quality of life additions and world expansions. Look, as far as I know, this game was made by like 3 dudes in Australia, and considering we already have this, I'm kind of impressed already. But it being made in Australia makes sense, as my American brain could not comprehend why I could not simply just walk into a store and buy a gun like a normal person, but instead I had to skulk around in the middle of the night and go to the black market and pay $1,000 Australian for a busted up cheap ass revolver and $10 for 6 rounds of what I can only assume is 45 ACP. Oh, and the other option for a gun is a 1911. So, you know what? Fuck it. 2 world wars, I guess. Woo! America!
You want to know what I've been spending your money on? This.
weed, cannabis, marijuana, that sticky icky if you must, pot, if you will, the devil's lettuce if you are so inclined. Like most people, weed will be the very first drug you produce. It's pretty simple. Grow it, bag it, and sell it. There are 4 main strains: OG Kush, Sour Diesel, Green Crack, and Granddaddy Purple. This is going to be your main cash crop for most of the game until you unlock meth and coke. It, like everything else, can be mixed with other drugs to have better effects, but more on that later.
Get off the toilet! Get off the toilet!
Meth is another one of the drugs you can make and is going to be the second drug you get access to. It's a little bit of a jump from weed to crystal, but whatever, it's Australia. Meth is, on its own, alright, and you will be immediately able to tell who's rocking the crystal. From what I can tell, meth is just asking to be mixed with stuff. In fact, if you do it correctly, meth can be a pretty getting around drug because if you mix it right, you'll effectively be able to fly.
What we were trying to do was make the gumballs more orange, but what we did instead was open a rift in the space-time continuum, unleashing a godlike entity. You know, it happens.
Mixing drugs is how you make your products worth more money and allows you to give them different effects. This can be anything from a nice, soothed, chill feeling to sedating them, anti-gravity, schizophrenia, zombification, death, and fuck, I don't know, I can throw in some seizures in there if you want. However, in following the footsteps of my creator and the creator of any white man,
ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our show, Yakub.
I created Yakubian Kush that can and demelanate any Kemetic or Findonesian into the preferred appearance as directed by our gene father, Yakub, peace be upon him. The white man wah aside, mixing stations can be staffed in order to create a semi-automatic production chain. This is going to be necessary as you cannot direct the end product. Instead, you're gonna have to set up each step and task individually with hirelings. Some decent effects are flying, race changing, hyperspeed, glowing, zombification, gingivitis, generizing, seizure inducing, and many more fun things. Ingredients for mixing your drugs can be anything from paracetamol, energy drinks, codeine, and I shit you not, horse semen. Yes, you can mix weed with horse cum, effectively making that stallion sticky, the Mr. Hands OG pack if you will, Clydesdale Kush if you are so inclined. One of my current strands, CD Surprise, is 2 parts horse semen, 1 part Adderall, and 1 part battery acid. And the names that the game comes up with are just beautiful. Shiny Piss, Afghan Crack, Gorilla Ass Blaster, and one of my personal favorites, Granddaddy Thunderfuck, not to be confused with Big Thunderfuck. One of them will give you a nice chill vibe, the other one is going to send you through the entirety of the Divine Comedy, crescendoed by seeing God, all within the confines of a Wagee's mind on a closing shift. It's always good to make your own personal strain. Cars and skateboards are cool and all, but becoming the Agarthan meth wizard Yakub knew you could always be, praise be upon him, is so much more rewarding.
You've made me so proud.
Normally, time is our enemy, but in this game, time is our bitch. Because at 4 a.m., we trigger our stand last in line. How does it work? It triggers every single day at 4 a.m., during which time stands still. Plants will not grow, but people will still be able to move around. Inside of this temporal singularity, we can get to work. Mixing, cooking, and anything with an actual timer will continue to work in this time null zone. So this is the time of day where we mix everything in preparation for the next day. Your local Circle K will continue to have operational hours even during a dragon break, so make use of that. 4 a.m. is going to be the most opportune time to sell, since your customers will give you a respectable fee for coming out during the police lockdowns that trigger every night. But as mentioned earlier, hirelings will not work. Speaking of, after some progression, you'll be able to meet up with this guy and be able to hire some people for your operations. There are 4 types: growers, cooks, cleaners, and transporters. Growers are not showers, and they will tend to your crops, replanting, harvesting, and watering them. Very useful for your grow labs. Next up, we have our cooks. Cooks, very simply, operate all of the chemical mixing machines. Cleaners will automatically pick up all of the trash in an area, and transporters are responsible for moving stacks of items to either workstations or packaging stations, where the transporters will also package up your products. In order to best gather my thoughts on this game and give it a final score, I will now take the next 7 IRL days to play Schedule 1, and only Schedule 1. Okay, while I may not have been entirely honest about only playing Schedule 1, it ain't my fault that God Howard, peace be upon him, decided to shadow drop Oblivion. It's also not my fault that I bought it a few days after the game dropped. Anyway, here's how it went. Day 1, I started a new game and got to work. Now, with the knowledge of what to do, this shouldn't take long, right?
Correct!
I skipped the tutorial and was able to save everything in the RV, greatly boosting my plant production and skipping many of the early game quests. In short, after the first in-game week, I had already maxed out my deposit amount and had gotten the sweatshop and the bungalow. After getting the bungalow, I set it up as a grow/mix house and set the sweatshop up as a pure grow house. And then everything kind of sped up after I was able to automate production, got the barn, and set up production there. I then grinded out until I unlocked the docks, tried to get the contact for coke before time was up, but didn't, and I believe at this point, about 50 hours in, I have exhausted what content this game has. And for an early access game, that's pretty good. Beyond the basic stuff like drug production, the town does feel alive. Everyone has a schedule that they follow, unless they're looking for a hit, at which case they will hunt you down with the utmost fervor for some product. You can customize your character, gamble, get some tats, get some cool clothes, gamble, buy guns, gamble, kill the annoying cops, gamble, gamble, gamble. Overall, it's a very good game with a good amount of content. While it is an early access game, it is definitely worth its price at its current state. And there's also a good amount of content promised to be added, so there's some new stuff literally right around the corner. Overall, it's a very good game, and I'd highly recommend you get it. The game also has multiplayer, so if you wanted to get your own Heisenberg, Jesse Pinkman RP thing going on, well, now's your time. I give it a solid 8 out of 10, and we'll probably come back to it whenever it gets its completed and pure 1.0 build. Now, if you'll excuse me, there is a schizophrenic wood elf in Skingrad who desperately needs my help.
Late in the evening, walking down the street, making very little noise with my shaking feet. Turn around the corner, and guess what I see? I see a drawing on the sign that looks like me. Skingrad City murderer, still at large. Used to soul jam, caught a different charge.